and welcome to Pure Yoga. This is going to be a short little video about doing boat pose, Navasana. So it's a core strength exercise and I'm going to be doing quite a few variations of it. It will work your hip flexors, it will work your abdominals, your obliques. So it is quite challenging, but stick with it. And if you need to regress it or progress it, I will give you some ideas on how to do that. So coming into a cross-leg position, we're just going to do a little bit of spinal articulation first, just to warm the spine up and just move the body a little bit. So bringing your left hand onto your right knee, bring your right hand behind and just turn and twist and rotate to the right. Take it to the opposite direction, right hand to left knee, left hand behind, twist, rotate to the left. And again, the other way. So just moving from one side to the other, same to the left. Keeping the pelvis nice and neutral and grounded, so we're facing that short edge of the mat with the hips and we're turning the shoulders to the side edges. So we'll just take one more on both sides, just to get that spine warmed up a little bit with rotation. And then bring it back to centre. Bring your right hand to the floor, left hand reaches up, and then lean over to the right side, take a little lateral flexion. Come back centre, left hand down, right hand lifts, reach over to the left with the right hand, contracting the left side waist. So two more on both sides, just moving that spine in lateral flexion. One more both sides. And back, leaning to the left. Back to the centre. So we're going to make our way onto our hands and knees. Either swing the legs around or just plant the hands forward, roll forward, and bring those knees underneath the hips. A little flexion and extension of the spine. So starting from the tailbone, start to lift the tailbone up, start to drop the belly, start to bend through the lower, the mid, the upper back, the neck, raise the gaze, squeeze the shoulders back. Starting from the lower spine again, start to tuck the tailbone under, start to roll through the mid, upper, neck, chin comes into the chest. Two more in both directions. So start to go from the lower spine all the way to the upper spine. And again, the other direction, starting from the lower spine, moving your way up one vertebra at a time. One more, both directions. One more back to the other way. Come back to a neutral space, soften the elbows, step back to a plank position, hold it in plank for a breath, and then start to paddle the feet as we lift up the hips. So we're going to be moving to a seated position again. Now you can either swing the legs around or bring the feet forward one at a time. So bringing the outside edge of the right ankle, the outside edge of the left, bring the bum to the mat, the feet forward. Take a hold of the knees, we're just going to rock up and down that spine a few times. So just rolling back up, rolling back, and back to seated, back to bring the head to the floor, back to seated, one more time, and back to seated. So hold it in that place between the sit bones and the lower spine. Rest the shoulders back, relax the arms, come up onto the tiptoes. Keep the spine tall, the crown pointing up. Raise up the right leg, bringing the foot to knee high. Raise up the left leg, bringing the left foot to left knee high. Hold it in that space. One more breath here. Then maybe straighten the right leg, maybe straighten the left leg. So we've come into that V shape, boat position, Navasana, supported by the hands. Hold it there for one more breath. Take a bend into the right knee, take a bend into the left knee. Bring the right toes back to the mat, the left toes back to the mat. Either swing the legs around or cross the feet under, bring the hands forward, step back into a plank position. And then paddle the feet as you start to lift up through the hips, finding that downward facing dog place again. Bring the heels to stillness, stretch through those backs of the calves, Achilles and the hamstrings, stretching up into that lower back. And then we're going to make our way back to a seat again. Either swing the legs around, or this time bring your left foot forward, or bring your right foot forward, bring the bums to the mat, feet to the front, support the back of the knees, and then just rock up and down that spine 4 times. 1, 2, 3. On the 4th time, I'd like you to try and find a balancing position with the feet in line with the knees, holding and supporting with the hands. Tall through the spine, relax through the shoulders, pointed through the toes. Then bring the toes back to the shins and push the heels away. So we're stretching the calves and Achilles, contracting the front part along the shins, that tibialis muscle at the front of the leg. Point through the toes, stretch that area and contract the back of the leg. Bring the toes back and push the heels forward. And then release just to a bit of a softness. Point the toes again. Straighten up the right leg, straighten up the left leg. If you wish to release one hand, then release the other. Try and stay in that V-shaped position without collapsing in the lower back. Nice and tall through the crown of the head, using that hip flexor strength to keep those legs high. Or just keep a hold of those legs if you wish to. Work to the regressions or progressions, whatever works for you. One more breath here. Release both feet to the floor. Swing the legs around or cross the feet under. Bring the hands forward. Step back to a plank position. All the time keeping nice and strong through the centre of the body. Start to paddle the feet as you lift at the hips to down dog. When you arrive in down dog, squeeze the heels back, gaze back to the toes, the knees or the hips to get a stretch through the back of that neck. Making your way back to a seat, either swing the legs around, or this time bring your right foot forward, your left foot forward, bring the bums to the centre, the heels to the front. Hands grab underneath the knees, find that balancing point, and then rock up and down that spine, this time just 3 times. And on your 3rd time, I'd like you to find that balancing point again. Place between the sit bones and the lower spine. Keeping the knees bent this time, release the hands if you wish, or keep a hold of the knees and just work on that hip flexor strength. We're going from high boat to low boat 5 times. Keep that core centre engaged. Low boat. Straighten the legs, straighten the arms. High boat, bend the knees. Low boat. Engage the core as you lift back up, bending the knees. 3 more of these. Shoulders stay away from the mat. 2 more. And 1 more. Come back to centre, release the feet, tuck the feet under or swing the legs around, bring the hands forward, step back to a plank. Nice and strong in the core centre. Paddle the feet as you start to lift up with those hips. Squeeze the heels back. Take a moment in down dog, stretch the back of the neck if you wish, or nod and shake the head. Then make your way back into a seat, swinging the legs around, or this time bring your left foot forward, your right foot forward. Bring the seat down to the mat and straighten both legs out. So bringing your bend into your right knee and bring the outside of that foot into the groin of that left leg. Then find a balancing point, bend into the left knee. If this isn't accessible, then just keep that right foot on the mat here, and we're going to go with balancing with the left leg lifted. If it's available to have that little tuck of the foot into the groin, find that balancing point. Hold on to the back of that left knee as you raise that left foot up to the ceiling, finding that figure 4 Navasana boat pose, pointing through the left toes, or just keep that right foot on the mat and just straighten up through that left leg. Hold it in this position for the count of 5, 4, 3, release that left foot back to the floor, straighten out the left leg. Bring your right foot to meet the left, take a paddle of the legs. So that figure 4 is giving us an external rotation through the hip. So this time on the left side, we take a bend into your left knee and bring that left foot into the groin, tucking it into that crease of that right hip flexor. Take a bend into the knee, take a hold of the back of the right leg, or bring that left foot to the floor if you can't find the hook of that left foot on the right thigh. Find your balancing point, lean the shoulders back, push the chest forward, raise up with the right leg, holding in figure 4 Navasana boat. Holding it here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release that right foot to the floor, left foot out, give a paddle of those legs. And then bring the feet right to the front edge of the mat. Take a bend into both knees. Find the weight onto that sit bone. Lift the feet away from the floor. Bring the feet up to knee height. Release the hands. Hold it in this space for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Cross the arms. Squeeze right rib towards left hip and just twist through the waist. Come back to centre. Opposite side. Left rib to right hip. Back to centre. 3 more both sides. Right rib to left hip. Back to centre. Left rib to right hip. Back to centre. 2 more on both sides. Right rib, left hip. Back to centre. Left rib, right hip. Back to centre. 1 more both sides. Right rib, left hip. Back to centre. Left rib, right hip. And back to centre. Take a hold of the crease of the knees. Rock up and down that spine a couple of times. Bring yourself back to seated. Cross the feet under or swing the legs around. Step yourself back into a plank position. A nice strong plank, squeezing the bum, pushing the heels back, crown forward, drawing the belly back towards the spine. Then start to paddle with the feet, starting to raise the hips back up to our downward facing dog. Squeeze the heels back, stretch the back chain of muscles, holding it here for a breath, stretching the back of the neck if you wish. Then make your way back into a seated position. This time I'm bringing my right foot forward, my left foot forward, bringing the bum to the seat, bringing the feet out in front. So just allowing everything just to soften off a little bit. And then when you've done so, take a bend into both knees. Bring the elbows to the inside of the knees and take a hold of the big toes with the index and middle finger. So starting to take your weight back onto that place between the sit bone and the lower spine. Take the heels away, just find the balancing point first. Then straighten out with the right leg, pushing the right heel up towards the ceiling. And then bring that right foot back to meet the left, keeping the heels at a hover. Straighten out the left leg. It may be that you don't get that leg totally straight, that's fine, just work in progress. Bring that left heel back to meet the right. 2 more on both sides. Right heel lifts. Right heel comes back to meet the left. Left heel lifts. Keep squeezing that left shoulder into the back pockets of the spine. And bring that left foot back. Right leg lifts. Right foot back. Left leg lifts. And left foot back. Just hold it in that balancing point. Bring the elbows to the inside of the knees and just squeeze the feet a little closer in towards the body, as though you're bringing yourself into butterfly legs with the soles of the feet almost together. Still balancing on that space between the lower spine and the sit bones. The elbows are pushing the knees out to get a little external rotation. 1 more breath here. Then you can either alternate the legs again, or you can bring both legs out straight and hold it with straight legs. Pushing the chest forward, pushing the heels up, still balancing on that place in between the sit bones and the lower spine. Try and squeeze the shoulder blades into those back pockets so we're not curling through that upper spine. Breathing here, in through the nose, out through the mouth, or just using the nose if you wish. One more breath. Then bring those knees back into a bend, bring the soles of the feet together. Start to draw those feet in, push those knees out with the elbows. One more breath. Then release the feet to the floor, cross over the feet, bring the hands forward or swing the legs around, step it back into a plank position. Hold it in that space and then lift the hips, squeeze the heels back or paddle the feet, finding the stretch of down dog just for a couple of breaths. Make your way back to a seat, either swinging the legs around or bringing left foot forward, right foot forward, bringing the bum to the floor, feet to the front. Roll the shoulders, take a hold of the knees, rock up and down that spine a few times. Just massaging that back. And this time when you come back up, just make sure your bum's a little further forward than centre because we're going to take it into plough. If you have any neck issues, don't take the feet beyond the eye gaze, just let the feet come up to the ceiling. If you're okay with the neck and you don't have no high blood pressure, you can take your feet behind the back of your head. So bringing yourself into boat first, bringing both feet up to knee height, bring the arms out to the side. Slowly lower yourself into a low boat. Then bring the hands to the floor, the head to the floor. Bring the legs up towards the ceiling. Stop here if you have any issues with the neck or high blood pressure. If you're okay to go further, bring those feet behind the back of the head, either to touch the toes behind you or they may be in a hovering position. Just make sure the head and the gaze is staying up to the ceiling as you hold it in plough position for a couple of breaths. If your feet are just pointing up to the ceiling, try and push your heels high and your toes back towards your shins. Then slowly bring that body down, bring the bum to the floor, the legs are straight. As you start to reach them forward to a hover, bring yourself up into a low boat and then bring yourself back into a high boat. Control positions. We're going back into the same direction, so bring yourself back to low boat. Hold it in low boat for a breath. Then place the hands down, palms facing down, shoulders to the mat. Start to raise the feet up to the ceiling. Either stay here if you have any issues, or push into the hands and start to curl the feet over to the back of the head. Chin comes to the chest. Toes maybe touch the floor or slightly hover. And just keep that controlled space. Again, the bums can be grounded and the feet can be lifted. Whatever seems to be good for you. Work with what your ailments are, or just work to where you want to challenge yourself. One more breath here in plough position. And then slowly let that bum come back to the mat. Meet the people who have got their feet high. And then slowly start to bring those feet to a hover. Bring the hands away from the floor, find low boat. And then find your high boat, finding that balancing point at the base of the spine. Holding it here for a breath. And then release the feet to the floor, cross the feet over. Bring the feet forward, step the feet back, hold it in plank for a couple of breaths, and then start to lift up with the hips. Squeeze the heels back. Stretch through the back of the neck, gazing up higher up the legs. Then release that stretch, make your way back into a seated position. Swing the legs around or step one foot forward, then the other. Bring yourself into that place, balancing point. So we're going to do what we call Russian twists. So take the hands underneath the creases of the knees, lift one leg up, lift the other leg up, find the balance, bring the hands together, interlace the fingers, either bent knees or straight legs, twist to the right, tap the hands to the floor, back to centre, twist to the left, tap the hands to the floor, back to centre. 3 more on both sides, to the right, centre, to the left, centre, to the right, centre, to the left, centre. Remember, you can bend the knees, right, centre, and left, centre. Bring the feet to the floor, give the knees a hug, stretch through the base of the spine, and just tuck that chin into the chest to stretch the back of the neck. So again, find that balancing point. This time we're going to come into a rotated bow. Take the hands underneath the knees, lift up one leg, lift up the other, crossing your left foot over the right. Then bring your right hand to the toes of the right foot. Now the hook of the left foot over the right foot keeps both stable. Maybe you straighten the legs here. And then lift that left arm up and over and feel that twist come into the waist. Remember, the knees can be bent if you need them to be bent, or straighten the legs if you can straighten the legs. Twist from the oblique muscles, the waist muscles. Holding it here for 5, 4, 3, relax the shoulders, 2, 1. Bring that left hand back up and over. Release the feet to the floor, give the knees a hug, straighten through the lower back, bring the chin into the chest. Breathe deeply here. Again, find that balance point. Bring the hands underneath the knees, lift up the left leg, lift up the right leg. So this time we are going to hook the right foot over the left. Take your left hand onto that left foot. Maybe you want to straighten the legs. Reach the right hand up and over. Keep that balance on that sit bone and lower spine. Turn and twist through the waist. Elongate on the inhale, rotate on the exhale. Really working that hip flexor strength, even though they're getting a little outside support with the left hand holding that left foot. Both legs crossed, stretching through that posterior chain of muscles of the legs. Rotation through the oblique muscles in the waist, working that digestive system. Relax the shoulders. Bring your right hand back up and over. Release the legs, give the knees a hug, straighten up through the back, bring the chin into the chest and stretch the back of the neck. So bringing your feet just slightly away from the bum, we're going to make our way down slowly to the mat. Really controlled, trying to keep the feet planted as you come down one vertebra at a time. Feeling each vertebra touching the mat. And bring your right knee into the chest and take a hold of the crease of the knee and point your left toes up to the ceiling. So we're going to see whether we can find a balancing point lifting from this space. So take the left leg back and then rock up to a balance. Left leg stays straight, right knee stays bent, squeezing into the chest. Holding it here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly let that body release back to the mat. Bring that right knee into the chest. Hold on to that right knee and point the hold on to the left knee and point the right toes up to the ceiling. Same thing to find that balancing point for the count of 5. So bring the right leg back and then swing yourself up, squeezing the left knee into the chest for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release that right foot down, left foot down. Again, find your bum in the centre of the mat. Bring the hands forward so they're in line with the knees. Push into the hands, push the chest back and lift the legs away from the floor. So use the hands as a little bit of support here. Then we're going to scissor the legs. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Let the legs come down. Straighten up through the back. Maybe just fold over those legs to relax that lower spine out a little bit. And just let the head hang. So 2 more things to go. Lift up through the spine. Bring those fingertips to touch. We're going to lift and lower both legs at the same time for the count of 5. So lift the legs, set yourself back slightly, up and down for 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Release those legs down. Allow the body just to fold over those legs to relax those hip flexors. Let go of the head, let the spine roll. So one more, either choice to do this if you wish. This time the hands just come by the sides of the thighs. So we're going to push into the hands and we're going to lift up the bum. So you may just stay here. You may walk the heels back a little bit and you may just try and find a little levitation through those heels. So lifting, it's quite hard. See whether you can lift both heels away from the mat. I'll set you that challenge because that's not working for me today. If you've managed to levitate those feet away from the floor, absolutely fabulous. My hip flexors are just not playing ball. Take a moment, arms out long, walk the feet towards the front of the mat and slowly let yourself curl down, 1 vertebra at a time, all the way to the floor. Bring the arms to a T shape. Bring the knees into a bend. And just to release out the pressure that you've probably built in the lower spine and in the belly and in those oblique muscles, just let the knees windscreen wipe from side to side. So my goal really is to try and find that levitation of the heels. That's what I'm going to be working on over the next few weeks and see whether I can revisit it in a few weeks. Let the knees drop out to the side, soles of the feet come together. Let everything relax in those lower limbs. Maybe just rock those knees a little from side to side. And then bring those knees back to centre, heel toe the feet out to the edges of the mat. And let's stretch those hip flexors. Feet stay where they are. Let the knees drop to the right. Back to the centre. Knees drop to the left. Back to centre. One more both sides. Back to centre. One more to the left. Back to centre. Heel toe the feet back into the middle. Walk the feet to the front of the mat and separate them to the width of the mat. Bring the hands down by the sides of the body and just take a few moments in relaxation just to let everything relax, everything give to the floor. And I'm going to leave you here. Take as much time as you wish in this place of Shavasana. Have peace in your thoughts, your words, your hearts. From my heart to yours. Namaste.